Can you hear me now? That was really loud. Oh yeah, and Kurt's gone. So
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
We're gonna get complaints about that.
what about how loud that was?
No, that music. That was terrible.
You love it. You were dancing. So
No, I was cursing. I
well,
was
yeah, I saw.
stomping my feet.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was
Yeah.
ready for the jazz music, and instead it was a ding, 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 ding.
Wait,
I thought I needed to run out to the street and order ice cream from the truck that were driving past.
That was the same thing we used last week.
Nah,
It wasn't?
no.
What
You're probably
countdown?
using something from another show you do with the other friends you have.
Those are the two I have.
Well,
So
we've used the
I don't know what other one. I'll have to go watch.
We've been using the driving rhythm of the dun 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 dun.
Oh, we have. Okay.
Mhm.
Oh well, sorry about that.
Hey, if anybody happened to have joined us on this little journey that we're on,
This is live.
This is all live.
So,
and,
yeah.
and so
You
this
post
is what
comments. They'll. I mean, I can put them up here. So.
this is what normally happens when Dave and I get together. We have these deep and meaningful conversations about entry music.
Yeah.
And I'm standing up today. I don't know if that's going to make it better or worse, or
Well,
make people feel like I'm nervous or something. I don't know.
If you head out, outdoors, you'd be outstanding.
And if I went down the road,
Yeah.
I'd be outstanding in a field.
Some field, farmer's field. Yeah.
Field.
Yeah. Well, it's good to see you, Kurt. Are you actually standing up now?
I am.
Okay.
I'm thinking about sitting back down, but
Yeah.
I might some way, through this after we get past verse 1.
So yeah, this is Pondering Ephesians, part of the Pondering passages. We also do Pondering Psalms, and we usually record that. We record Pondering Psalms, and then we
very good reason.
Yeah, and you're seeing why right now.
That's
and
right.
This is live, so you can interact with us if you dare. And we
Actually, please do interact with us. We would love to hear from anybody.
And we wanted to take a look at Ephesians. And so we started Ephesians Chapter 1. And every week, sometime on Friday around this time, we talk about it. We haven't talked about it before. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is I wanted to let people know that you don't have to be a Bible scholar to get something out of the Bible, to have the Bible speak to you. That it's okay.
Obviously not Bible scholars.
Well, that's, yeah. And you don't have to have a lot of resources. You can just look at what is there and allow God to speak to you through it.
Yeah.
And so, well, let me back up. But you might have to slow down your reading.
Yeah.
Because usually we will read for information and we will try to get as much information as we can. What we're doing here is really more of slowing down, taking a look, seeing what questions the text is asking of us, and trying to allow the text to master us instead of us trying to master the text. So, are we ready to jump in?
Love it. Love it. I love your take.
My take. Yes. And so we've been taking a look at this. What would, if people haven't been watching, what would you say about where we are right now in Ephesians? We're on chapter 3. But can you summarize what's gone before?
Yeah, I think we can.
Do you want me to scroll back up?
Nope, you don't need to.
Okay.
So this is a letter that was written by Paul. This is a pop quiz, folks, just in case. Dave just wants to make sure I'm still paying attention.
No, yeah. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a letter written by Paul to a church. And when we say church, the word church really means gathering.
Yeah.
It's a gathering of people. It's not a building down on the corner. And they were people who wanted to follow Jesus, and he had some really good news he wanted to share with them. He was writing to them about this this gift that they have as followers of Jesus, as uh, little Christians, and he tells them, he said, there used to be a point where you were kind of on the outside if you were part
Yeah.
of what were called the um, Gentiles, right? And so there were two groups. There were Gentiles and there were Jews. And if you were not a Jew, you were a Gentile. That's it. That's just how it worked. And he says, I've got some great news for you guys. You are part of the whole family.
Yeah.
You have been adopted into this. This is great news. And so he's talking about, the rules and regulations that the Jews follow, and they take pride in that. But really the truth is, Jesus is the bottom line, And
Yeah.
so if you've agreed to follow Jesus, nothing that you did on your own, you didn't earn any of the grace that God offers if through Christ, and it's offered to Jews and to Gentiles. Congratulations. Does that sum it up pretty well?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I track with is when he talks about you were dead in your trespasses and sin, but
Yeah, that's
God
true.
made you alive.
I skipped right over that.
And it was the same power of God raising Jesus from the dead that also raised us and brought us together in this amazing reality that Kurt, you just talked about.
Yeah.
That we have been brought in, even though we are on the outside. And Paul begins, and one of the reasons why I thought it was important to go back is he said, when I think of all this,
Yeah.
I mean,
so watch episodes 1 through 8. This is episode 9 in the Ephesian journey, and watch episodes 1 through 8, and it will give you a sense of what all he's talking about when I think of all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And he mentions the fact that he is a prisoner. He says a prisoner of Christ, but he was actually a prisoner in actual life because he was preaching Jesus and ended up in jail because of it. But yet he could still write, and he's writing to these churches, and he says it's for their benefits, for the Gentiles' benefits.
I read this every day this week. That's one of my practices, partly because I know we're going to talk about it on Friday, and I want to have it kind of in my heart and in my mind. But also, as we've been talking about this practice of reading the Psalm, you and I read the Psalm every day.
Yeah,
the same Psalm every day for a week. But it's really become instrumental in my understanding of Scripture. In our small group, we're going to be studying the book of Philemon. We're going to be studying that next Thursday, and I've been reading it every day in preparation for. And it's it's real short. It's just like 28 verses or something like that, 24, 28. And I've been reading that every day with the ideas that I really would like that to be a part of me when we sit down and talk about it. Not because it's going to make me the authority, but that it just then lives in me. And I think as I've read this each day this week, I've been thinking about what it must have been like for Paul to be in prison for Christ.
Yeah.
Because he believed so adamantly about this Jesus that he was willing to be sent to jail. I mean, he didn't have to be. He chose to be. He just said, look, if I'm really all that, then you need to lock me up. I did.
It's the good news that he could not keep from telling, even with threat of prison. And I think that's a great practice you mentioned. I'm reading, getting ready for Easter stuff, and in Luke, the angels, when they're looking for Jesus in the graveyard, they say, "Remember what he said," and they remembered. You can't remember something you never knew. And so as you read and as you allow it, I like your phrase, live in you, that stuff doesn't just come to your memory. It also can change your life as well. And we see how much it's changed Paul. And you can almost hear the excitement in his voice when he talks about this special responsibility that he has been given. I mean, he feels this responsibility. He's in jail. Why? because of this sense of the special responsibility of what? Of extending God's grace to the Gentiles.
Okay, so I did really struggle with this first sentence. So verse 1 and 2, it's verse 1 and 2, but that's the first sentence as it's broken up here. Now, you and I have talked about this a lot in our other recordings, is that, this may have been one long phrase, and that whoever put it in this version in NLT, they put a period there after you Gentiles.
You want to check this out?
Well, I assumed you would. That's why I'm bringing it up.
The Lexham English Bible seems to go pretty well with the Greek. And see, there is this line right there. I think Paul breaks his thought off because over here it says he resumes this thought in verse 14.
Yes. So that's what it's an incomplete sentence, to be honest.
Yeah.
As you read it. So it's like, when I think of all this, I, Paul, a prisoner of Jesus Christ, for the benefit of you Gentiles.
Well, wait a minute. Well, wait. Assuming, by the way, that God gave me this special responsibility.
And he never finishes that. He never finishes that when I think of all this. What happens, Paul, when you think of all this? Tell us.
What you want to know, because the little asterisk tells us he ends, verse 14 says, when I think of all this, I fall to my knees and pray to the Father.
But so we're not even in that
No,
today,
we're not.
Right?
Yeah.
But you and I were reading this, and you asked the question a few weeks ago. You said, I wonder if he has thought through all of this, or if he's just talking out loud. And this verse, as I was reading verse 1 and 2 repeatedly, I mean, I was like, I'm missing something. I'm missing a word. I'm skipping something. Yeah. I landed on the fact that Paul's just thinking out loud, and somebody's writing like crazy to keep up with him. And he's like, when I think of all this is, which, by the way, God gave me this.
Yeah.
He doesn't come back to it until way on down in the letter.
Yeah. And what excites us this much, and when we think about the gospel, and we think about the fact that God, and we'll get into this a little bit here, but what God has done through Jesus, does that excitement burst forth? Because that's what I'm sensing. He's in prison, but this excitement of this responsibility that he has been given just bursts forth from him.
Yeah. He cannot contain it.
Yeah. And so he talks about this special responsibility, extending God's grace, his grace to you Gentiles, as I briefly wrote earlier. And so now he's moving back.
Yeah.
What do red? I don't know. Or is that orange? I don't know. I'm getting into the highlights. God himself revealed his mysterious plan to me. Mm-hmm. Now, I have said that, you don't need to be a Bible scholar or anything, but that doesn't mean having some background information can't be helpful. It is helpful.
Right. Yep.
But it shouldn't stop you from reading what's there. The background here, and I guess I'll leave this as homework, is to take a look at Paul's his conversion experience.
Yeah.
Because it really seems that that's where he received this mysterious plan. It was revealed to him. He did not have this slow, because a lot of us, we kind of, there's a point where we believe in Jesus or give our lives to Jesus, whatever language you want to use. And then we find this long journey of transformation. Paul, it was bam, literally knocks him off his horse. And you can take a look at that as a homework in Acts.
I am not one to challenge you very often.
Okay.
But he did have that experience.
Yes.
And then he went for 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Where he is working with other people who taught him, who ministered to him.
I think he spent 3 years in the desert. I don't know who was involved in that.
Well, look it up.
Okay.
He talks about, and the history is that he did in fact have a growth opportunity where God ministered to him over time, and we don't know where he got this calling to speak to Gentiles and to share this. It could have been
Well,
in the moment on
yeah,
the Emmaus, not Emmaus Road. He wasn't on the Emmaus Road. I'm mixing up my stories. Damascus.
and one of the reasons why I said this is he was persecuting the church,
Mhm.
and then almost immediately he stopped.
Yeah,
So
no doubt about that.
Something
Yeah.
happened to let him know you're on the wrong path. This is of me.
And I really like, I mean, we're way off of Ephesians at this point, but I really like in that story that we don't get everything that God told him in that moment.
No.
We get Jesus saying, why are you
Well,
persecuting me? And that's, but he comes to this knowledge, even though we only hear a small part of that, he has this knowledge of what it is that God really wanted to do through Christ.
yeah, and I think for me, what I think is he was a Pharisee. He was a very good Pharisee, very knowledgeable Pharisee, and I think that event actually connected some dots.
Yeah, that's a great insight. Yeah,
and I think it's actually addressed here in our passage in a little bit.
Take us forward.
Okay.
We got derailed there.
So yeah, so he says, God revealed his mysterious plan to me, as you surely read what I've written. He doesn't say surely, but you've read what I've written. You will understand. Yeah. I was waiting. I didn't know if that would come through. You will understand my insight. And see, that's what we're talking about. This insight he has into this plan. So again, there is something going on here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a plan. Let me do that again. It was a plan that God had that he revealed to Paul. He did not reveal it to previous generations. Now, this is interesting. But now by his Spirit, he has revealed it to his holy apostles and prophets.
Tell me about that. Because I didn't have an answer to that.
Well, his apostles would be those of his disciples, although I'm not sure exactly how Paul would have viewed apostleship. The way we view it is it had to have someone with direct connection with Jesus, and maybe that's exactly how Paul saw it as well. So this would be Peter, James, John, and all those. Mm-hmm. But then he throws in this whole thing of prophets,
which hadn't been around for a while.
Yeah. Although he says God did not reveal it to previous generations, but now by his Spirit, he's revealed it to his holy apostles and prophets. So it seems like it's the prophets that are currently around, which I haven't really read anything about the prophets that were around in Paul's day. So maybe that's some homework there. Again, as you go through this, when there's things that don't make sense or things that don't add up, you can always, do some homework, kind of seek that out, be curious about it. However, I hope before we end here, we will come away with realizing that all that is just kind of side stuff. That's just...
Yeah, you could spend hours and hours digging around for what did he mean by holy apostles and prophets, and then miss what really he's most excited about.
Yes.
Higher up,
and he tells us, this is the plan.
This is God's plan.
Yeah. And again, it's exactly what you said earlier, Kurt. Mm-hmm. Gentiles and Jews who were separated, who were pulled apart, who, salvation is from the Jews. Jesus says that in John chapter 4. And so the Gentiles were out of it. And Paul says, well, this is God's plan. It's been his plan, but it's only been revealed now because of Jesus, that both Jews and Gentiles who believe the good news share equally. Well, I know
you were waiting for me to say equally, but I wasn't going to.
No, I was pausing. I was pausing for effect.
Very nice. Share, but I love then what's next. Share equally what in the
Yeah.
riches. Now, and this is what I was thinking about. If I was
A
one of the
rich man?
chosen, if I was a rich
Rich man.
man,
La, 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 la.
if I was a Jew who had the inheritance promised to me,
Yeah.
and now you tell me I have to split that with
Oh,
these people that were
yeah.
not the original chosen,
Wow.
that'd make it pretty upsetting.
Yeah. One of my takeaways, just based on what you said,
No.
we have, well, of course you wouldn't, because I haven't said it yet. So yeah. So I guess that makes sense. We are so focused on a mindset that is of scarcity, that if someone succeeds, that means we fail. If someone has, that means that, well, we have not.
Or have less.
Or have less. Yeah. And so sometimes that's why it's hard to celebrate for someone, because it's like, oh my goodness, they got my promotion. They got this. They got that belongs to me. But what Paul is saying here is, in the good news, there's no scarcity. We share equally in the riches. We get the same amount.
Well, we share equally, which means the Jews get half as much as what they were going to get before, right?
Oh, okay. So no, I don't think so.
Well, in a world that's like the beginning of a movie. In a world where there's very little money, then only half of it goes to. But that's the thing. You really have to think about, what are the riches inherited by God's children. It is not a limited supply of blessing or a limited supply of grace.
It's a limitless mindset.
Limitless, unlimited.
I was at a church and we were doing I never thought about this. We were doing a stewardship campaign, and one of the things that was said is, your giving is like love. The more you love, let me back up. See, too bad we can't fix this in post now. Well, I guess you can. Again, it just popped in my head, and I haven't had the time to really form it.
All right.
But here's the thing. Think about love. When you have one child, you've given that child all your love. Mm-hmm. And one of the things you don't realize until you have a second child or a third child is that you don't love the first one less so you can love this one. Your love actually increases. And so
you cannot explain it.
No. And so the more you give love away, the more love you have to give away. The more love you don't give away, the less you have. It's really amazing concept if you actually think about it. Because we have that scarcity, meaning there's only so much of the pie, and once the pie's gone, nobody gets more pie.
Right.
But God just says, well, gosh, there's more pie over there.
And we too often associate time or actual physical money that we have with love.
Yeah.
And so therefore, he got a car and I didn't, because you love him. No. I mean, I have only so much time to spend with all of my kids. But love just doesn't work that way.
Right.
Matter of fact, like you said, I mean, the more time I spend with my kids, the more in love I am with them. And my heart just bursts with the desire to spend time with them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. And so, he continues and said, both are part of the same body. They both enjoy the promise.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they belong to Christ Jesus. Right. It's in him that this promise has come about. And it's in him that this plan has taken place. By God's grace and mighty power, I have been given the privilege of serving him. The privilege, by spreading this good news.
Yeah, I really, I just think this is I don't have a lot underlined in this section, because I've been underlining quite a bit as I've been reading through Ephesians, and things pop out, and it's really exciting. But I just really like his passion for this part of the story. And
Oh yeah.
he uses the term good news a couple of times in there.
Yeah.
And and I think we diminish that as kind of a version of the Bible or translation of the good news
Right.
translation. And we just make it kind of just a catchphrase almost. When in reality, it's central to, it is the story that we need to hold on to. It is our salvation story.
So, as I think about my formation through the scripture and just reading what we read and seeing just the excitement in Paul's writing, what would happen if I captured this in my own life?
Yeah.
If I captured the same sense of God's limitless blessing, not just for me, but for everyone around me, everyone in my family, everyone I work with, everyone I come in contact with, that they are part of this, that they're not outside looking in, but they have been invited. And this is good news. It's good news to the hopeless because it brings hope. It's good news to the broken because it brings restoration and healing. Yeah.
Well, and the other
God
thing
has done amazing things.
The other thing that it does is it gives us a different perspective on the people in our lives. If you think, oh, wait, they're not on the outside of this either.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, God really wants them to be
Yeah.
belong to Christ Jesus. They want, you know, and that they also can be a part of this, and we will be enthusiastic for them. And you know,
yeah, I just had a thought. I realized something. Paul was on the inside.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a Pharisee of Pharisees. He was heading places. He was going places. He was on the inside. And he had experienced God's blessing, and he knew the depth of God's love, and he knew all of that. And so when he got knocked off the horse, and as he went through his transformation process and everything, the thing he wanted to do is to let everyone else know of this wonderful promise, because he has experienced it his whole life, and he wanted others to have that same opportunity.
Yeah, he wasn't begrudging these newcomers.
Yeah,
you know, he was actually thrilled.
It's like the semi with the Easter candy that gets in a wreck, and all the candy, and people are like going, hey, there's free candy, come on. And everyone's running and they're getting the free candy because it's such a wonderful thing.
Mullins.
It doesn't work. That one doesn't work.
You know, for you it does, because you know you can't wait for the after Easter sales to pop up.
I don't want people to know. See, that is a limitless quantity. So, you know, once the 50% candy's gone, it's gone. Although I discovered a dirty little secret. I went into CVS and they had my favorite Easter candy on sale. You buy 2 for the price of 1. I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's 50% off. It's the same price as your after Easter. I felt a little betrayed.
Well, I think it's just this year. COVID has changed everything. They're wanting people. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to have to keep an eye on that.
Well, I mean, how many people are going to be getting together for Easter?
You don't have to get together for Easter to eat candy.
Well, now that's just silly talk.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Well, Dave, thanks for walking us through this. We're just going to do verses 1 through 7 this week. And then next week we'll jump in verse 8, probably go through 13, I would say. And so if you're reading along and you want to read those next few verses, that 5 verses, that's the way to do that. And I've really liked that. Ephesians has always been a favorite book of mine, but I've never, until we've been studying this together, thinking about this, really picked up on the fervor, the enthusiasm that Paul has for this story that he's telling. It's really cool.
I think what we usually do, though, is we segregate it. We look at different passages, we look at different verses, and it's like, oh, well, you know, you've got, you know, Ephesians 2 talking about you're dead in your sins. You got, chapter 6 talking about, living a certain way.
Don't spoil it.
But then it's like, how it flows. I mean, Paul didn't write it that way. Paul wrote it. It's a flow. He's going somewhere, and it starts talking about just the power of God to transform us. But now it's talking about the power of God to bring us together as his children, even though we certainly don't deserve it.
And, we're 2,000 years removed from this writing, and we still don't act that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll get through this study or this reading.
We will.
I don't know if it's a study or a reading.
We will have changed all of Gentile-Jew relations when we're all said and done. That's great.
Well, thanks for putting up with me, man.
No, man, it's just a joy. So anybody who's watching this, did anybody chime in? Did anybody send any little notes or comments?
Nope. No notes, no comments.
All right. Well, that's all right. Yeah. We'll be back here in about a week and do it again.
I'm sure the fact that we do this Friday at 4 doesn't have anything to do with the fact that people probably are not online watching things.
Hey, we're online.
I know we are, but it's my day off and you go to work early. So
that's true.
Yeah, that's true. It's a little different schedule.
People probably can't just log in anytime they want.
Yeah, that's what I hear. So. All right. Well, I'm ending this.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And we will talk to everybody soon.
Yeah. Blessings.
Bye.
Bye.